this is, by the way, it's a compliance requirement. In ISO, in 8.12, you will find that they ask you to conduct a vulnerability assessment frequently. In PCI DSS, it's a compliance requirement. In NIST, so vulnerability assessment, it's not optional. It's mandatory according to all compliance and standard. So first, to be able to use the tool, we go to new scan. And inside the new scan, you will notice that there is different kind of scan. Okay, there is basic scan and there is custom scan according to standards. There is PCI DSS scan, because this standard, which we will cover in our training, requests a specific requirement. So even if you are not familiar with the standard, you know what scan to select in case you need to comply with the standard. But in our case, we will select the network scan, basic network scan. And then you start putting the scan information. You start by writing the scan name. And because this is a operational activity, we do that every month or every quarter, or in some cases every 2 weeks. So you have to give it a name. So in case the auditor is asking you for a specific scan, show me the scans that was conducting on December or on November, it has to be named. Don't put random name. Usually what I'm doing, I'm putting dates. So I can write, for instance, today is 28 January 2023, for example. So always put a name and always put a description as well. Description is optional, but in all the application, whenever you create a rule, a scan or something, write a description. Because keep in mind, someone may need to follow up after your work. Maybe you are on leave and someone is replacing you. He cannot keep searching randomly. Then below, we need to put the IP. I can put the IP separately of the machines that I will scan, or I can import a text file that include all the scan, or I can ask him to put or to create to run a scan on a full network. So if you write, for instance, if my network 192.168, guys, don't worry if we are going a little bit fast in the process of scanning, because it's just a demo. But next session, you will do it from A to Z, implement NASIS and start using it. So it means that if we need to scan the network, open again just put .1/24. Don't put the IP .1.1/24. This means scan the full network. Anything that starts with 192.168.1 will be scanned. Okay. Then you can run the scan. Below, you can save it and run it later, because usually we are doing that after working hour. But I can go to the list and click on run, because this is a demo, and it will launch the scan, and it will start scanning all the machine. Scanning for what? Looking for vulnerability. Okay, open one of the previous report if it has any finding. Yeah, see, this is like a result of the scan. Okay, now if you go to the orange part or red part, could you go to this red part on the left side? Yeah, the chart. Just click on this orange part. It will show you the critical vulnerability found on one of those systems. Yeah, exactly. So he's showing you how many vulnerabilities found. Whatever is in blue, it means it's not critical. Whatever is in red, it means critical. But I'm not a vulnerability expert. I mean, I should not study them. My point is, I found some vulnerability and I need to start taking action. Could you go back to the, go to the same screen one more time?
Yeah.
And on the left side, click on My Scan, the first option. Okay. And click on one of those scanning that already was done.
Well, actually, even this one today one is done already.
Yeah, just click on it. So once I conduct the scan, what I need to do, I need to go to export on the upper right.
It's giving me invalid target. So
okay, so yeah, go back and select any one of the previous report, no problem. So once the scan is completed, I will go to export on the upper right and select CSV file. Okay. And those reports will be exported inside an Excel sheet. So guys, once I conduct a scan, I will end up with a report. let me show you the report. Yeah, it's something like that. The report that Mahmoud generated will look like that. Okay, all the vulnerability found, each vulnerability name and related to which application. Now keep in mind, the scanning is not just for Windows. It scans the Windows, the application like Acrobat Reader, like Office. It scans any other platform like Linux. But the report usually, it's unreadable, very, very long. I mean, this is a scan only for 2 machines, but in your organization, if you have like 200, 300 machines or even more, the report will be very, very, very long. Okay, what I need to do, and this is my main responsibility, so I launched this the vulnerability assessment tool like NACES or Rapid7, and then I will get the report, and then I need to organize the report from this shape. You can see my screen, guys, right? How did I get what? The report. What Mahmoud did, you saw what happened. He ran a full scan assessment and he got the report, and then he selected export and then CSV file. What he will get in the download folder is a report like that include all the vulnerabilities that was found. This is the default report. So once he click on export, automatically inside the download folder, he will get the report, but in this format where all the computer IP will be found. This is the IP of all the machine, all the vulnerability found, the criticality of the vulnerability, the details will be inside this report, but it will be huge and unorganized. Okay. Now, what you need to do is to change it to this format. Can you see this format?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this file, as you can see, it's divided. If you go down here, you will find, for instance, Microsoft vulnerability. Okay. I will find Oracle vulnerability, Linux vulnerability, database. All the vulnerability will be organized in different tabs according to the type of vulnerability. And this is the organization I'm doing myself. Okay, I'm taking from this raw data inside like a custom-made report, and I will start putting the vulnerability. This is the real report, by the way, guys. I mean, see how long is it? So here I have to categorize them according to the high and medium. So I have to identify what is the critical vulnerability and what is the medium and what is the low, because what need to be fixed is the high and medium, while the low is not urgent. And it has to be quite organized, like the same way I'm showing you right now. It has to have the computer name, the vulnerability that was found, on which machine, details about the vulnerability, and most important, the solution. From where did I get that? It's the same report, except I did organize it, because what I will do next, I will send the Windows report to the Windows team. Guys, here is your vulnerability categorized according to the criticality. Please patch it. Do the following. Application team who are managing the applications, they have to do the following. This is how the cycle need to be done. So the point is, check the difference. If you send the team, the Windows team, a report like that, they will never do anything about it. It's messed up. It's not organized. Application with Windows, with other operating system, it has to be organized like that. Okay, and you have to send to the concerned team and tell them, guys, this is the list of vulnerability. Please fix it. Okay, and they have to send you a patching plan, so you will be aware when the patching will be done, especially for the critical and for the high and medium. Okay, but when you do it like that, you make their life easy. You tell them what is the solution, what needs to be done, what is the IP, what is the critical one to be solved right away. So you make their life easier, and then they will cooperate. But if you make it, if they keep the report messed up, no one will try to figure out or try to search in the report and so on. So according to that, our responsibility is not really that technical. We conduct a vulnerability assessment periodically, because this is not a one-time process. It could be done each month, each quarter, each week. It depends on what. What do you think the factor that will let me decide the duration? If you conduct that every week, right? It means that every week you have to send the patching report or the vulnerability report to the concerned team. And the concerned team need to patch it and make it ready before the next week. Because you cannot run it next week unless the previous patch has been done. The point here, you are both right, Mahmoud, and both of you are right. The point here, we decide how frequently we are doing it according to the infrastructure side. Because guys, it's not about like running a vulnerability assessment and get this report every week. It's about getting fixed. So if I don't give to the right team the right amount of time, it will not be fixed. And I will keep getting the same vulnerability in each report. So if you have like an infrastructure of 5,000, 7,000 machines, you can conduct a vulnerability assessment every month, or you can divide them to smaller zones according to department and conduct weekly each department. But my point here, you need to give them time to the IT team or to the other team, because it could be the Windows team, the Linux team, the application team. So they will patch the system. And next time you find the same vulnerability in the same system, you need to escalate that. So keep in mind, this is not an operational activity that you're just doing it because it has to be done. No, it has to be followed up. And this is the challenge we usually face. So we send that to the concerned team and we ask them to send us a confirmation once the patch is done. And once the patch is done, I have to follow up with them. And when I conduct the next vulnerability assessment, I need to make sure that whatever was in the previous report is not showing today. Otherwise, it's waste of time. You know, I keep doing that. It's not getting patched. So vulnerability management, it means a full cycle, starting from deciding about how frequently we're going to do it, then how it will be done, then the mitigation part that will be done by a different team. The full cycle is called vulnerability management. But our responsibility is the vulnerability assessment part. Okay? Now, this activity, is it an operational activity or is it a one-time activity? And since it's operational, it needs to be documented or not? In what? Which document we are in which document we are writing down this kind of operational activity? Policy. So policy is to document a process that we're going to follow. So since vulnerability management will be done from now on, because also in ISO it's required, it's not just a best practice, but if we go to the ISO document, okay, in 8.12, you will find that vulnerability, technical vulnerability, it has to be done. So we have to document it, so it will be followed from now on. And everyone will follow the policy. You will follow the policy, technical team will follow the policy. So it has to be documented. And this is your first assignment. Create a vulnerability management policy to explain the cycle that I just explained to you. Okay, guys? Don't worry, you will get very familiar with NASAS, with the process. You will do a lot of vulnerability assessment, but today is about understanding the process. And one more time, what is your responsibility and what are other people's responsibility? And even in the job description, you will find this is what they wrote in the job description. When they mention that you have to do a vulnerability assessment, check the remaining part and coordinate the resolution with the other department or other team. So you have a part to perform something and coordination with someone else. You have to be quite clear about that. Okay. Vulnerability management is a big topic and it may have different scope. Like some organization, if they have a developer in place or they have programmers, they will conduct a vulnerability assessment in any application before going to live. But I don't want you to go through that much details. Just be very specific. Your responsibility is to conduct a vulnerability management, follow up with the concerned team for the resolution. Okay, what is the common output from a vulnerability management? Patching. Did you conduct the vulnerability management for developer? No, I didn't. This is the questions that you may face inside an interview. Okay, if we have a vulnerability assessment done every month, so we need to close all the vulnerability before the next vulnerability assessment. But some of the critical and high and medium it has to be closed earlier, and you have to get a confirmation that it has been patched. But let me explain in an example, okay? Sometimes, and this will be covered in the threat intelligence part, you get notified with a critical vulnerability. So what I just show you, it's the normal vulnerability assessment activity. But sometimes some vulnerability will raise, and it's a very, very critical vulnerability. Guys, do you remember this WannaCry virus, ransomware? It was a very nasty one, and it affected a lot of healthcare, especially in UK. Okay, and this ransomware, by the way, whoever don't know what is a ransomware, it's a type of virus that encrypt all the information in your system and in your network and ask for money to be able to recover the information. And it's something quite common right now, and a lot of companies are paying money whenever they get infected with ransomware, but we will cover that in the antivirus. It's a very, very big challenge right now. This ransomware, WannaCry, came due to a vulnerability in Microsoft Office, which is this vulnerability number. Okay, so when you get to know that there is right now a very sensitive vulnerability in Microsoft Office or in Acrobat Reader that may lead to a spreading of a ransomware, okay, you will get that from the threat intelligence, as we're going to learn later on. You get to know that there is a new vulnerability, but this one is extremely critical. Should I wait for my next vulnerability assessment? Exactly.
Yeah.
I have to do a vulnerability assessment right now. This is called an emergency vulnerability assessment. Okay. And how do I do that? Because I don't need to conduct a full vulnerability assessment looking for all vulnerability. I'm only searching for this vulnerability. Do I have any machine or any server that have this vulnerability in place? So let me show you how we conduct that. Mahmoud, could you share your screen again? Going back to new scan, create a new scan. So when I get a notified, and I will show you how we are getting notified with such information, that right now there is some vulnerability that is considered quite critical. I don't have to wait until I get a problem and solve it. I have to be proactive. So I will go to the vulnerability management tool, NACES or whatever, and then, yes, click on new scan, please. I will select dynamic, see, dynamic vulnerability assessment. And in this option, there is an option to search for a vulnerability. So I can select dynamic scan. Yeah, select advanced dynamic scan, this third one, advanced dynamic scan. And in this dynamic scan, you have all the settings, scan names, the IP of the machine, but go to the dynamic option, which is the third option. Yeah, this one. And here you can see a CVE name. So you can write the vulnerability name, and he will search specifically for this vulnerability, because I don't want him to spend time and give me a list of full vulnerability. I'm only looking for one vulnerability that was announced very critical, and I need to know, do I have any machine in my platform with this specific vulnerability? Now the scan, as I told you, this is a mandatory requirement in all standard, and it has to be done according to that. It's not really a deep technical. I mean, you know, some people is diving deep into the subject, knowing how they are evaluating the vulnerability score and what. No, don't go that deep. You are responsible only to conduct this activity, get the report, send it to the right team, coordinate with them. And you can automate the process, by the way. You can have a policy, the scan can be running after each day. So it doesn't matter if you're going to do it manually, automated, but it's under your responsibility. If for some reason, like within this, like, what can I say, the WannaCry virus, you got affected with that, and they find out that this was due to not conducting a vulnerability assessment periodically according to the requirement of the standard, you will take full responsibility for that. Okay, so it has to be done, and it has to be done the right way. Okay, so today we covered the baseline and we covered the vulnerability assessment. Next time you will be implementing NACEs yourself. You will conduct many scenarios. You will get familiar with the tool. This is not a course for NACEs. Keep that in mind, because maybe you go somewhere and they are using a different product. But again, the product is to get you the results. It's not the main subject of learning, to use how to click on a new scan and where to put the IPs. This is not the skills. And never discuss this much or this kind of details in an interview. I know how to select between the scan. If you watch YouTube, you can know how to do that. Okay, but again, it's a part of the standard requirement. It should be documented as a policy. What is your responsibility? What is other people's responsibility? IT, operating system team, database team, application team, and so on. Regarding your question about credential scan, this is to see if there is any weak credential inside the network. Plugins, there is a lot of plugin. I didn't actually use a lot of them, but some will scan for network, some will scan for application security. It has a lot of add-on, but which you can navigate actually and see. But again, I just want you to keep it within your job description. So you can navigate there, but after all, it's all about the output of this tool.